The HOA president is banging on my gate, screaming that I've stolen her lake. Right behind her, 40 seniors in matching t-shirts are chanting about property rights, like they're staging a protest on my front lawn. There's a sheriff's deputy wedged between us, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. And there I am, holding a fat stack of federal documents, grinning like a fool. 6 weeks ago, this same woman, Patricia, called 911 on me, said I was a criminal for putting up a gate around my own lake. Yeah, my lake, the one I bought fair and square for $220,000. You ever have an HOA try to ruin your life? Tell me in the comments. Honestly, say you're watching from somewhere without HOAs, just to give me hope. Name's Garrett Sullivan, 47, union electrician, recently divorced by a woman who thought our 18-year marriage was holding back her spiritual growth. Translation? She met a yoga instructor with better abs and a trust fund. Hitting rock bottom hurts, but sometimes you stumble onto buried treasure down there. Last spring, my Uncle Ray died and left me $250,000 with one bit of advice. Never trust handshake deals, especially with rich folks. So when I found 14 acres in a spring-fed lake for $220,000, I didn't just buy it. I hired 3 inspectors, 2 surveyors, dropped $2,000 on title research. The air smelled like pine and clean water, and for the first time in months, I felt like maybe life could start over. I'd fish at dawn, build cedar benches, pretend my ex never existed. That was the plan. Turns out my slice of heaven sits right in the middle of Willowbrook Estates, where houses cost nearly $500,000 and retirees drive golf carts just to check the mail. These people spend $800 on wine tastings, but scream bloody murder when the country club raises dues $50. That's where I met Patricia Blackwood. HOA president, 64, 6 years running, drives a pearl white Escalade with HO press plates. Used to be an insurance adjuster, which probably explains how she can find a problem with literally anything. Her husband, Randolph, sits on county zoning, so she's got political pull that could make a mayor jealous. Her violation letters run 23 pages. Yeah, I counted. She once fined a guy for leaving Christmas lights up until January 2nd. Her perfume hits you 3 blocks away, floral and somehow aggressive, like a funeral home exploded. Day 3 after I moved in, I'm building a dock when I hear tires on my gravel drive. Patricia marches up like General Patton, clipboard in hand, 5 board members trailing behind. That structure violates community aesthetic standards, she tells me, peering over her glasses. I wipe sweat off my face and say, "Ma'am, this is my property. Got the deed inside if you want to see it." She quotes some HOA gospel about visual harmony and tells me to remove it or pay $200 a day in fines. Now, I'm union. I've sparred with lawyers who'd sell their own mothers for a quarterly bonus. But something about her talking down to me, like I was a 5-year-old who'd colored outside the lines, just made my blood boil. I told her I wasn't moving a thing. My land, my lake, my dock. Patricia whips out her phone and actually calls 911 right in front of me. Yes, I need police. Aggressive trespasser threatening community safety. Very unstable. You know that feeling when you realize your neighbor might be genuinely nuts? That was me. Deputy Morrison shows up, looks at my paperwork, sighs, and says, "Ma'am, he owns the place. He can build whatever he wants." Patricia turns red, then claims her HOA has grandfathered lake rights. They've been collecting maintenance fees for 12 years. And there it was, the accidental confession. This HOA had been charging residents $600 a year for exclusive lake access, for a lake they didn't even own. That's $84,000, minimum, siphoned out of the community for something that was mine. Patricia and her board knew it, too. Their whole amenity package was built on a lie. Did Patricia slink away? Not a chance. 3 days later, she's back, with her cousin the surveyor, who delivers a corrected boundary evaluation, showing my dock 3 feet over onto some made-up conservation easement. Smelled like fresh ink and desperation. "This is formal trespass notice," she declares. "Your illegal structure violates our environmental protection zone." I nearly spit out my coffee. Environmental zone? Lady, that's poison ivy and beer cans. But Patricia was playing a bigger game. She'd filed county complaints, started whisper campaigns at the country club, said I was unstable, dangerous, that I'd destroy property values. But this is where Uncle Ray's paranoia paid off. He always said, never trust someone else's survey, get your own. So, I hired the best in the state. 3 grand later, their verdict. Not only was my dock completely legal, but half the HOA's favorite amenities, including their copper roof gazebo, barbecue, even the boat launch, were on my land. And the real cherry? Patricia's deck, her pride and joy, was 8 feet onto my property. I served counter-trespass notices to all 7 board members. Watching Deputy Morrison hand those papers to Patricia, she looked like someone who just realized the poker game's been rigged and she's not the one with the marked cards. Uncle Ray taught me about adverse possession, how squatters can steal your land if you don't object in writing. That tip alone saved me 50 grand in headaches. But my new survey also showed the HOA's crown jewel, Lake Heritage Festival, was hosted entirely on my land. Every tent, food truck, every parking spot. When I showed Patricia, she actually said, "You can't destroy everything we've built." I told her, funny thing about investments, sometimes you find out you've been gambling with someone else's money. Patricia didn't quit. She got petitions going, 47 signatures demanding I be run out for community safety. She started surveillance runs past my place, snapping photos with a lens big enough to spot Pluto. Tips flooded the building inspector, dangerous construction, code violations, all traced to HOA numbers. She tried intimidating contractors, too. But I had an ace. Wesley, Uncle Ray's old fishing buddy, handed me a box of Ray's papers, old government surveys, Army Corps letters. Boring stuff, until I realized it hinted at federal complications from way back. Wesley told me, "Your uncle swore this lake had federal navigation protections, like untouchable by HOAs." So while Patricia's circus grew, I dug through Ray's files. Turns out he was right. The lake fed Troublesome Creek, which connects to the Missouri River. Federal law protected any waterway used for navigation. Doesn't matter how many McMansions go up around it. Patricia shifted gears. Her husband Randolph twisted zoning board rules, and my cabin permits turned into a bureaucratic nightmare. Every inspection needed more inspections. Every approval needed more signatures. So I said, to hell with it, and went off-grid. Solar panels, battery banks, the works. Patricia's harassment forced me into energy independence I didn't even know I wanted. Then I found out my land's zoning meant I could build guest cabins, a bait shop, even a commercial marina if I wanted. I plastered signs everywhere. Future Sullivan's Fishing Lodge and RV Park. The screech of Patricia's brakes when she saw those signs. That alone was worth all the headaches. Then came the utilities war. My power hookup got delayed, safety protocols. The minute I fired up my generator, noise complaints flew in. Noise pollution. Patricia screeched, standing in the middle of the afternoon. The deputy just shook his head. But she was only getting started. Patricia even tried to get my lake declared a protected wetland, to block all building. Except the environmental group, she contacted wound up loving my off-grid setup. They offered me 50 grand in renewable energy grants and wanted to partner up. Patricia's exclusive retirement paradise was turning into Baseboat Central, complete with eco-education for kids. Her face when she found out? Picture someone watching their perfect world catch fire in slow motion. But the Rayall nuclear bomb was buried in Uncle Ray's papers. Army Corps correspondence from decades ago. Turns out, the lake's been on federal navigation charts since 1847, protected by law older than Missouri itself. That meant Patricia's access fees, locked gates, even her no trespassing signs. Every bit of it was a federal crime. I had structural engineers document everything I'd improved, then partnered with the fire department for emergency grants. It all fit perfectly. Patricia tried everything, selling off common areas to raise cash, hiring security goons who wound up harassing FBI agents by mistake, launching insane lawsuits that judges laughed out of court. But her own board members were secretly recording everything, right down to her plotting violence and arson against my property. When the day of reckoning finally hit, August 15th, Willowbrook Community Center, I walked in with federal agents and stacks of evidence. News cameras everywhere. Patricia's voice shook as she tried to start the meeting, but Agent Davis from the FBI shut her down. "You're being served federal violation notices for obstruction, civil rights violations, and criminal conspiracy." Colonel Webb from the Army Corps ordered the gate removed. I pulled out Uncle Ray's ancient map, spread it on the projector for everyone to see, and told the whole room. This lake has been federal water since before Patricia's family was even here. She's been charging you to access what already belongs to you." The crowd exploded, people shouting, waving bank statements, demanding their money back. Patricia shrieked about federal tyranny until her voice gave out. When I finally cut the lock on that gate, the sound echoed like freedom. Children ran to the lake. Veterans saluted. Parents cried. Patricia's empire died in that moment. Federal justice in action. 18 months later, Patricia's serving time for obstruction, civil rights violations, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Her husband's in for domestic terrorism over the dam sabotage. The HOA refunded over $100,000 in illegal fees. Her Escalade? Seized and auctioned to pay restitution. Her house? Foreclosed and sold for legal bills. My lake is now a federally protected conservation area, open for everyone, just the way Uncle Ray always wanted. We dissolved the old HOA and formed a stewardship group that focuses on education and protecting the lake. Our annual festival draws thousands. Kids learning to fish, families celebrating conservation, law students studying our case. The best part? Uncle Ray's legacy funds a scholarship for environmental law students, so maybe no one ever has to fight this battle alone again. So if you've ever faced down an HOA, or you just like a story where the little guy actually wins, let me know where you're watching from. Drop your own property war stories in the comments. Do you believe the law should always trump local bullies? Do you think justice really exists, or do we have to make it ourselves? Tell me, and maybe, just maybe, we'll build a world where one person with the truth really can change everything.